Most of us know exactly what we want and what we want to do. We've just gotten really good at talking ourselves out of it. I'm Julie, and welcome to Be Cringe, the podcast that explores what happens when you start living for yourself and stop worrying about the opinions of others. This might be cringe, but we are doing it anyway. Happy to have you here. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Be Cringe. I am really thrilled and delighted to introduce today's guest, Chris Tagliaferro, aka Christopher, aka Tags, aka Chris Tags. But today we're going to go with Chris. He is the Senior Director of IT at Morning Brew Inc., where he's successfully convinced 90% of the company to use AI tools, despite them being on LLMs before that. Previously, Chris held roles at Peloton and Reddit. I know him from Peloton, so this feels like a particularly special interview where I get to cross paths with somebody from my past. He is a father of two, a reformed music industry guy, and he's got this distaste for social media, but a brilliant LinkedIn presence, which we will definitely dive into. He's won an award for what he does on LinkedIn. I just find the best.
Not an award with notoriety.
Well,
just,
yeah.
An award.
Let's let the intro get, cook people, right?
That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't want to sell me too much, but
An award.
An award. I didn't say it was a good award. It was an award.
Yeah, like a company award. Like you represented your company on social and you did it so well that
we're going to talk about it today.
We're going to talk about it.
Well,
Yeah, so here we are.
Me.
Yes,
I'm super stoked to be here just because I get to use the cool microphones today. Mostly that I'm talking to you is also really cool, but it's mostly the microphone. But
yeah,
I'm really
the podcast
stoked
setup
to be
is
here.
number one.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have you. Yeah, I was going to mention also more pro setup than I do right now. So you look great, you sound great, and really excited to dive in. Chris, it's so nice to connect with you after all these years. I gave you my spiel, or gave everybody a spiel based on what I know, what we talked about, but would love for you to just introduce yourself in whatever way feels right today.
Yeah, cool. I think we've talked a lot, and you've probably talked a lot about how great it is to be a generalist. And I think that has been part of the path that has led me here to not, so much wanting to be a generalist, but kind of just being open to the opportunities and being open to what's coming at you. And like the more you can know about everything. And so, I started in IT, like really, help desk, and it's like IT, and did IT MSP work. And it was like, I'm very IT. And I was like, I think right when like DevOps started getting popular, I was like, okay, I think that's my next transition. I'm going to be like an engineering manager. I'm going to like do cool dev stuff. I'm going to get really into coding, and applied for a bunch of engineering manager roles everywhere and got like super denied. But one of them was Peloton. And so they had my resume. And then what they ended up doing was contacting me about like a completely different role months later that was managing customer service design, which is where we met. And it was like not an IT role, but like when I thought about it, it was like, oh, it's basically like designing a help desk at a very large scale. And that's what I've kind of been doing. And like, it was the first time I was able to see like, oh, I actually have a skill that I've been using and utilizing very professionally for a long time that actually has nothing to do with IT that I'm now capable of doing in other places. And I was like, well, this is actually helpful. And so like moving into that role was like the first of like, I'm going to a place that I've never gone before. What do I do here? But, still being confident enough to be like, well, I have done this. Peloton was great, learned a lot, shifted focuses there a bunch of times just due to the ever-changing nature of the org, and got into product more, which is where we did a lot of our work together, and then like into other areas of the tech design. Moved on to Reddit doing program management because I was like, now I'm a program manager. I'm all about how to do things and nothing technical. And then here I am back at Morning Brew Inc. doing IT and being super technical again, just like I said I'd never do. So the point is, if you are a generalist and be open to everything, you can kind of just fall back right into this role and just keep programming switches and setting up computers like nothing happened, so it's cool. And then now I'm here talking to you.
I love it. I love that whole arc. It's so... Yeah, I think like you've got like this like specialized, right? You're kind of like an IT adjacent generalist throughout your career, and you've sort of made this loop back. And I mean, even at Peloton, your roles were always fairly technical, I would say. I also had a similar experience where I applied for one role, failed one of my interviews, and then was offered a different role. So love how those things work out.
They always do.
They always do. Throughout these many hats you've worn, you've also worn many names, some
Yep.
of which I alluded to. When I knew you, you were Tags, also like
Yep.
Chris Tags. I feel like the Chris was sort of shimmying its way in there, but
Still there a little bit.
still there a little bit.
Yeah.
At C Tags on Slack, if I'm remembering correctly, which
That's
is a
correct. Yeah.
crazy memory. That's my
Nice.
memory
Good
for
memory
you.
for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I have a weird knack for details. But what I would love to talk through that evolution and, what professionalism means to you and how your name kind of became a costume almost.
Yeah. It's weird. And costume is a good way to put it. I really think of it like it has a lot to do with the concept of masking also, in terms of if you're, familiar with neurodivergent concepts or whatever, but just trying to fit in, and I think it's like, it's a universal thing when you enter in a new environment to be like, well, I want to be me, obviously, but also like, I want to make sure I'm fitting into this group I'm now joining. And entering the workforce is always such a big change for people to be like, I have to learn professionalism and how to kiss ass to people and like how to, do politics and business and stuff. And like, that means wearing a suit and tie and wearing a whatever. And you start to create this like professional version of yourself. And I think it's very natural to be I put my suit on, this is professional me. And then you go to the work party and it's like, whoa, that's suit off, Chris. What a crazy guy. And so I think that's kind of natural to do that. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. It like, when I start creating my resume, I'm not going to write Chris, because that's a short, fun name. Like, I'll put Christopher. That's much more elegant and professional. And like, that's how that kind of like started. I'm Christopher at work. Like, my email address since I was a kid says Chris, but like anytime that I have an email address at work, it's Christopher. I didn't really think too much of it being an identity. It was just, that's more professional to do. But as time went on, when I got to Peloton, it was the very first place that I worked in where there was the culture of like, hey, you should come in as your authentic self, but no repercussions if you actually did come in as your authentic self, which you didn't really see elsewhere. They'd be like, be authentic, but don't not too authentic, right? And when I just showed up and saw people coming in basically athleisure wear on the daily, which like fit for Peloton, but not really caring about how they look, like coming back sweaty from a class and going to a meeting, and that just kind of being like, whatever, we're still getting stuff done. And I was just like, oh, this is a cool way to just be yourself. But it's also a little scary because it's like, well, still, how much of myself do I want to do now that I looks like I have the openness, right? And I think whatever it was, there was some other Chris's, enough Chris's at Peloton that they were like, we can't call you Chris. There's already a Chris T. Like, what could be the nickname? And it kind of just got like forced on me, like, your tags, your last name is too long. And I was like, whatever, like, that's suitable. I can deal with that. And just started like accepting it because people started calling me that. And just like that, without me realizing it, this shift in my work personality also came with a new name that like I didn't, really notice or ask for. But then it became, Tags was the authentic version of me that I brought to work. And I told myself like, yeah, that's the dude. He comes to work, but he's not wearing a suit and tie. He's wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie because he's fucking cool, right? He's like more too good for that. He's like, whatever. And he like has this persona that's highly influenced by like my, punk rock days in high school, and like can show this certain edge to him or whatever. And again, still nothing I really thought about because I thought I was just like being me, right? And like obviously the fact that I'm saying that word is spoiler alert, like I wasn't. It came that I at Reddit talked to another professional that I trusted who talked about a similar thing, and they had their own nickname and talked to me about how they consciously were putting this work persona into that nickname and hiding their personal persona and using it as a conscious separation. It, until that moment, had never occurred to me how conscious that separation was for myself also. I thought it was just like, I am being authentic, I am being whatever. And I realized that by still being Tags at work, that was still a modified Christopher, right? It was just Christopher with a hoodie. And like I don't know, there was something about that. And at the same time, like to bring it back to LinkedIn, like there was this personal brand thing going on around this time that was like, everybody needs a personal brand to stand out. And then your personal brand needed to be authentic. And the whole discussion of being authentic and not really authentic on the internet was happening at the same time that I was like thinking about this part about myself. And it made me like wonder about some of the other decisions that I'd made. So, for example, I don't know if it was Christopher or Tags, but one of them quit social media long ago. Facebook got deleted, Instagram got deleted, Twitter got deleted, like, I don't know, probably in the 2014, 15 era, just because it was such a sad time and everything was just comparison and, you know, who's having a great life and faking it. And it was just not what I wanted to see every day. And it was just so fake that I was like, forget it. I was happier for it. But the one thing I kept was LinkedIn, not because I was like, I love engaging on LinkedIn. It was because like, well, when I need a job, I have to use their job board. So I need to keep that presence and just like have the account, right? So it's the only thing that I just kind of like kept. And then when I ended up looking for another job and this personal brand thing was happening, it was like, well, it is true that like in the job market now, everybody is struggling to be noticed. And they are all building a personal brand. But that in itself is like, if everybody is building the personal brand and using a personal brand playbook, then everybody is now also going to look exactly the same. And they're going to all saying like, I can teach you how to like do this to your LinkedIn and get 75,000 more views. And now there's this whole subset of people that's trying to like convince you and con you to pay to get a personal brand. And I'm like watching all this happen being like, this is not like no one's going to get noticed actually doing this. Like this is one of those things that it's like, it just seems like everybody's just doing a template after a template and falling into a trap and no one's going to get noticed because as someone who had been hiring, like I know what I'm looking for in people when it's not like follow the trend or follow whatever. And so I was like, well, in this sea of people, who would I want to look for and how do I be that person? And the more I really thought about it too, like all of those people that I didn't want to be were just quintessentially Christopher, right? That professional, you know, it's buttoned up and, you know, I can teach you how to triple your KPIs. I don't know. And I just saw that piece of myself in that still existed. And it was the final death blow to that part of me to like watch it be just all over the place in real time and be like, ugh, I can't do that. And if you can't do that, and like that's what professionalism means, does that mean I could just go be unprofessional on LinkedIn? Like, I wonder if unprofessional is the way to stand out now. Is there a line between what someone would consider unprofessional that would be almost shocking in a way of like, I can't believe you did that. But of course, there's nothing wrong with it, right? I think that when it comes to LinkedIn, that has been the strategy in a sense. And it goes back to, well, that's who Chris is. Chris, the kid who was in high school and actually listening to hardcore punk rock and hating the, you know, George Bush going to 9/11 protest things like for the Iraq war and like,
TBT.
you know, back, yeah, all fun days. But like that part of me was like, would act in ways and do things in ways that was like, that's what I did back then for those things that I cared about. Like when I cared, I made a punk show happen, like, and like brought all these people and said like, F the government and like whatever. And like, I was 16, obviously, like I'm not like really like I was right then, but like at the same time, I got up and did something about it and made something happen that people weren't expecting and like rubbed people the wrong way in a way that's still like fine. And like being different, being creatively unique is what being an artist is all about. And like, how do you now bring that same artistic integrity and novelty to something that's so bland and business-like, like LinkedIn? And it becomes like now, like, how do I literally create art on here? And it feels like a canvas to me more than a social media platform. I'm seeing what like dumb stuff I can get reactions from. And like, you know, LinkedIn gives me literal actual reactions, which is fun. But also I would be remiss to say like the current person who manages me here at Morning Brew knew me forever, but was like, I saw the stuff you've been posting on LinkedIn. Did it get me this job? I don't know. Morning Brew itself was a direct inspiration, honestly. A lot of the videos that this team posts on LinkedIn are very much that same quality and that same, like, I'm making fun of the capitalism we live in, and we're doing business news in a very professional sense, but then you have these social teams that are just like wrecking their own social news and just like making fun of it. And like, I realized I was learning more from like watching a comedy video discuss a serious topic. Just like, like why The Daily Show with Jon Stewart has always been huge, right? Because I'm not expecting to watch something funny and learn. And like, if you can bring that same type of energy to social, you are like bringing the entertainment first and then throwing on some education later, where you're like, oh, this big shocking thing I'm saying, but hold on, wait, he actually did say something interesting about AI here. And like, that's what I'd rather be. I'd rather prove my expertise by breaking the rules of it rather than being like, look how great I am at this. Because like, that's what everyone's doing.
Yeah. I love that. And would you say that that is Chris? And today,
Yeah, that's Chris. Yeah, like
Chris.
breaking,
Yeah.
finding out what rules you can break. Just like, I mean, someone famous said that about art or music or something, and I'll just steal it, say it was me. But like, yeah, if you know that you learn the rules so that you know how to break them, right? You can't just not learn the rules, right? And I think it's that same thing, like being professional enough to know when, yes, you deploy this software always, and you set up your security policies like this always, but when is it okay not to do that? And like, knowing those exceptions to the rules become really what separates like a senior level professional from someone who is just generally looking things up because they don't have that general experience of like, yeah, except for that one time or except for this one thing. And as you pick those up, I mean, that's really the important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so true and so resonant. I love the approach to LinkedIn. I feel like I try to find my footing, and I think I take like a dual approach, right? I say ridiculous things and silly things, and then I'll promote like a podcast episode or something of the sort. And my voice is still there, but it is more buttoned up. And my sample of one, the difference in engagement and like reaction and views that the funnier, quippier, like, oh, you're opinionated, name every opinion gets over the, hey, I'm doing this thing, I've poured my heart and soul into it, is so interesting
Yeah.
to me. And I so often will get, I'll get comments and things like that. But what also is stark is I'll get like DMs from people or text messages from people that I've worked with. They're like, I just want to say I love what you're putting on LinkedIn. And it's almost like they don't feel like they can comment publicly and say that they love what
Yes.
I'm doing on LinkedIn,
I've
which is
gotten the
so
same thing.
interesting. I was going to
Yeah,
ask.
it is very interesting where you get like a DM being like, hey, I don't want people to know I support you, but like I want you to know, but like I don't want to be caught supporting you. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, is it that bad? Like, I don't know.
Baby
Like, where do you
steps, I
work?
guess.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, it's a career downfall to associate with quippy, funny people. But I've gone through the who you are at work and who you are at home, and over time have really tried to bridge those together. When I first became a manager and I was working at Allbirds and I had this in-person team, I was like 27 and I was managing people out of college, but also my age, but also older. And I really felt like I had to put on this like buttoned up look, but also it was a startup with the most casual Bay Area shoe ever. And
Right.
my approach wasn't changing my name, but it was like really isolating my personal life, and just being at
Yes.
work. And when I'm at work, I'm at work. I'll give you like little bits, and obviously we can learn about each other and build that rapport. I loved my time there, and I look back on it and I'm like, I think I would have had stronger relationships had I just like broken those walls down a little bit and like
Yeah.
let myself settle and be a little bit more of myself while a manager, if you will.
Yeah. Shout out to per my last email, Kyle Haig and Kyla, but they do a podcast here. There was just a recent episode they both did on per my last email talking about should you be friends with your manager. And I watched a little bit of that, and I think they had interesting perspectives where like Kyla said like, no, you shouldn't. And Kyle was like, you could be friendly and like, naturally if you're just around a person and you get along with them, you're going to have a friendship. And to go out of your way to avoid a friendship is the problem, right? Like it's not being a friend, it's not whatever. Because obviously if you commit too much to that and rely on it, like that's the problem. But like you said, like when you're just like struggling to be like, no, I'm not going to be friendly with you, that's where it starts to hurt. And like if you can't, I definitely did the same thing of like, and this also, I think it's affected by like working partly in security too. Like everything is PII, and like I'm not going to give you any information too. Like so, even at like in the office, I'm like, you're not going to know anything about me just in case, But like also, how could you connect with someone if you don't like know anything about them? Like how could you like be excited to see someone and be like, I remember that TV show we were just talking about. I just saw it too, and I want to like connect with you on that. Like if there's nothing to do where I'm like, hey, we're talking about work again, then I just associate you with like that I have to do, and we couldn't possibly have a good relationship. I definitely did the same thing, and I think it's much easier now to like in feeling confident of myself and who Chris is, to be able to share that more openly. I think it goes back to who you're working with and who you're sharing it. But if you're used to or scared of people using this information against you in some way, and you've had that happen before, you need to see that it won't, and you need to experience enough of that. And so if you have the coworkers that are also open with you and, give you that space and don't judge you back, it also can really help your openness too. So
Yeah.
shout out to Peloton for starting that. And
Shout out to
Morning Brew
Peloton
Inc.
for
for keeping it
starting
going.
that. Yes, yes, and Morning Brew Inc. for keeping it going, and all the other places where we may or may not have been encouraged to be ourselves along the way.
May or may.
May or may not, including LinkedIn somehow. I always admire people that are like 100% themselves and bring that version everywhere. I think I lean, there's like a core version of me, but there's me hanging out with other parents and me hanging out with coworkers and me hanging out with friends that I've known for 10 years. I think there's like little bits that I add or layers that, either come apart or don't. Wondering if you do that or if you truly feel like you have just one identity.
I think they say when you are with certain people and you act differently with people, it's usually about who you were when you met them and got along with them, right? So if I'm seeing old coworkers, they might be expecting to see Christopher or Tags, right? And so it might be weird if Chris shows up and they're just like, oh, you're acting a little different now. And so I think you maybe consciously try to be like, let me just transition over the course of this, evening or this meeting from one to the other, like if you're going to commit to that. Or like, sometimes you're like, they're not ready for this. And I think you might fall into the second half if you are still more consciously trying to separate your personalities, where the second former is more of like, I'm confident in who I am and like these people are going to see the real me type of thing. And so, yeah, I think it's natural to do it and to still like act differently with certain people. Cause like also like, I don't know, you could be more extreme and just be like, what if like I had a friend in high school and like now like we were friends, great friends now. And then like 20 years later, we have like wildly different, I don't know, political opinions or something, right? Like it would be tough to bring Chris into that person's life and talk about all the things Chris cares about, because like it's going to just start shit, you know what I mean? And so it's like there's also like still a conscious effort of like I could still be Chris, but like I don't have to tell everything today. It's less of keeping your personality separated, because like if they ask like what are your political beliefs, I'd be like these are them, but like I'm not going to go out of my way to be like this is who I am now and make a whole stink and end friendships and do all this either.
No more punk rock shows on Long Island.
I mean, probably the other way around. I'd still be doing the punk rock shows.
Amazing. Great. I love it.
Whatever you take away from me, whatever you take away from the show, viewers, please. I'm not doing punk rock shows. That's not the transition I've made.
I love it. Yes, I think that is like that distinction, right? It's being who you are at your core, and give like kind of every day ebbing and flowing and seeing what resonates, seeing what doesn't. I think that's so great. I want to touch on something that you brought up when you were talking about the way you show up on LinkedIn, and part of it is, you're pushing the narrative, you're pushing the envelope, you're seeing what you can get away with, but you also described this idea of being successful for you is if somebody gets something out of it. So it's like this shock, kind of like a shock and awe, right? You shock them and then they kind of step away and like, oh, I do know something. I did learn something. So what are those things besides shock value and bringing more of your authentic self to the platform? What are the actual like lessons that you're trying to get across when you're on LinkedIn? Yeah. What are the nuggets you want people to walk away with when interacting with you?
Good question. Yeah, I think this is one place where it was a little weird for me, and also it helped me be separate from other LinkedIn creators and LinkedIn people, even those posting with a good funny narrative or whatever, still were like usually selling some professional service behind the scenes. They're making funny videos, but then they're also selling their video service or whatever. I don't have anything to sell. And so it's been, the bad part about that is I don't have anything to like focus the content on and back to be like, this is my consistent narrative that I'm trying to like do. And so I had to kind of create that for myself of like, all right, I'm here, I'm just kind of like making, but like, I'm just like, at this point, it's just free flowing because like, there's no point to this. So like, why am I doing this? And, part of it, like you said was before, I wanted to make like one of the first posts that actually like blew up ish for LinkedIn for me was like a post I made about a scam like job recruiter that messaged me, and it was just like a link, a screenshot of like the conversation I had with them, and I made some like pirate joke to the dumb bot or the fake person. And like I think it obviously resonated with a lot of people who were getting all of those spam recruiting things. And that made me think like, oh, like 600 people liked this. They must be also dealing with scam recruiters also. So what could be helpful, what I could put back into the world is like make a guide on spotting scam recruiters and like to do all this. And this could like be helpful for people since they clearly want that. And then I put that up like a week later and it got like three views. And I was like, I put like hours of work into this like PDF, and it was just like nothing. And I was like, well, like this was a dumb joke, and like everybody like retweeted it, and like this was like helpful, and like nobody cares. And so I was like, all right, well, I want to be helpful to people, and like I think like what I ended up like seeing my goal being as part of that is like just like being the antithesis to those people who are like, let me tell you how my AI agents can make you 60K a month in your sleep, and like you just have to buy my course to do it, and like obviously they're just gonna steal your money and like whatever. And I think that it's like I see so many people always have who take advantage of people's lack of knowledge on a subject or things that are just complicated, and then like try to reframe it as something like only they can teach you and that you have to give them money, when it's just like, hey, there's all these other free resources or free whatevers to do this, and like, or this is why this promise is fake. And the goal for me was always like, let me prove other people to be full of crap who are trying to dissuade, like trying to take people the wrong way. And in doing so, if I can point out what's wrong with other people, this is a very classic thing on the internet, right? Like if you want an answer to a question on the internet, you don't go ask the question, you go post the wrong answer, and then you let people correct you.
Yes.
And like that's how you get more traction on the internet. And so it's kind of the same way of like, I'm looking for people who are like telling the wrong thing and then like either commenting right on them or just like kind of like reposting what they've posted in a different ironic voice that kind of just like proves how bad or fake the whole system is. Like, you know, even in those AI agent posts, like there's always these like, you can do this in your sleep, you'll make 60K in passive income. And like, that's all such bull crap, because it's like, I was like, cool, let's see what happens when I set up AI agents to do the work and what actually happens. And it was like this garbage output. And it's like, this is what actually happens. And this, I want to show more people like, you can't just do that. You need this. Like, this is how you be successful. This is the thing that nobody is saying because they don't want you to have that knowledge that it's that easy. And like the democratization of this knowledge should be what we're striving for, because humanity has always been more successful as a group. And so like if you are locking stupid knowledge that's readily accessible by pretending it's yours, that just makes me kind of mad. And so like that spite has been my biggest driver in gaining context. And so like now it's like when there's even that natural like to the point of like how to get the eyes on the post, right? Like there's so many posts now about I've set up my AI agents to do whatever. They all start with that. And even now people are like trained to see that and go, ugh, like this is going to be a bullcrap post. Or if they're not, they're like, I wonder what this person's doing. Either way, they're ready to engage with it and be like, you're crappy. And so if they're ready to do that second thing and then they'd read it and be like, oh, he's actually being real, he's not being an asshole, that also gives people that confidence too, to be like, this is a trusted source. He's not going to lie to me. I'm going to follow the other things he's saying because now I know that this person is not a bullshitter. And the information that they're saying is not tied to selling a service, is not tied to their own gain. Like they're literally, there's nothing else they're saying this for besides to spread knowledge. And like once I prove that to other people, that gains the audience who want to see that. And I think like that's what being authentic online is all about. Like you're doing something for no return because you really want to spread it. And like that's what making art is. And that's like for me, and that's what being like a human is to me. And that's why I just see them all intertwined. Like, I'm making something, I put it on the internet. If people want to engage with it, great. If it makes their life better, great. If it doesn't, I will try again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that philosophy, and I think you've really found your footing. Like you said, you have nothing to sell, right? You have a full-time job, and that alone would make a lot of people say like, well, what's the point, right? I'm not selling anything. I don't have this desire to. I've got an employer. I don't really need to make this presence. Or it's like, I'm just going to talk about my work, my employer, that news. And I think you found this really nice middle ground where you're a trusted source because of your perspective. You also have this IT background to be like, yeah, it's not that simple, right?
Yeah.
Like I can tell you it's not that simple because I understand it and I build these things. And, you can do it too, but not in your sleep. And you also like, I guess work for a brand that is really supportive of people showing up online. And I think back to when we were talking about people who sort of DM us quietly. I think that's part of it. It's like, oh, my employer sees me say something bad or good about AI, they're going to think I either use or don't use AI, whatever. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
or
you don't want
whatever
to be
it
like
may be.
marked as like I have an AI on my
Yeah,
sleeve. But like,
yeah,
yeah, but
exactly.
I think there is one part of it that is like, I got to admit, like a little slightly conscious in that like Morning Brew Inc. Amazing example of like we are really now in the post-influencer economy of like just what is the average person doing, and like people don't want to hear from companies anymore. We're seeing like people at companies being the new social voices, Staples Baddie, and all this stuff.
Yeah, LinkedIn has deprioritized brand voices,
Yeah,
like algorithmically. Like your brand page is not going to be seen as much
yeah,
as an employee at your brand
and
is.
and
Yeah,
I think Morning Brew Inc. has been on top of that for a long time, and like that's why there is an award that I won for posting on LinkedIn, because like there is an internal like notice of that to say like the more our employees themselves post, the more presence we have, the more
yeah,
the more they're posting their expertise, the more we as a brand look good across the internet, because it's like people are representing it and wanting to be representing this and like showing their expertise and being like, oh wow, this place is full of experts, right? And I think not only do we do that on LinkedIn, but like all of our podcasts are like people who work here. Like Kate on from People Person is our head of HR, and like like Kyle is the chief of staff to the CEO. Like everybody here like has real jobs as well as their podcasting, and like that's why, because the people who can speak the best about it are the people doing it and want to speak about it. And so I think it behooves everyone to, I think, to allow this authentic voice to come out. If you hired the person enough to represent you in like a sales call, you should also trust them to post online about you because they're representing you the same way. And I think if you give everybody that freedom like we have, then like you just become stronger.
you also see there was this like these two stories broke at the same time, and I can't remember the two companies off the top of my head. I'll link an article, but one of the guys worked at Joann's and someone else worked somewhere else, maybe Staples, and they were like both posting on social, and one of them got fired or was
Yep.
told like not fired but take everything down and stop posting or you will lose your job. And the
Yeah,
other
I
one
think
was
this
like,
is
here you go,
this
take
is
the reins.
Staples Baddie, and someone's worked at fast food. I
Yes.
think it was a
Yeah,
fast
maybe
food
it's
place,
that.
and then like
Yeah.
they were asked to stop posting, and then another company hired them, another competing fast food
Yeah.
company hired them and encouraged them to post, and
Yeah.
made out great because of it, because of all the attached press around the stifling of a human creative, right? Like
Yeah.
that in itself now, like just to say like, oh, this brand will do that to a person, like that's not a good look anymore, as everybody is trying to express themselves and be creative and be unique. The companies that do that are not in
Yeah.
fashion anymore.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely seeing this. I don't want to call it an exodus, but 6 years of layoffs of people starting their own thing. I'm seeing, I mean, I'm an example, people leaning into freelancing, consulting, fractional, whatever you want to call it. And this is a way to make working at a brand exciting and attractive. And, like, yeah, it's like you get the benefits and you can be yourself and get a cool award for what you did.
It also makes people feel like a little comfortable too, because like again, I think in the layoff economy that we're used to, like if I could get laid off at any second, if I've put a whole bunch of work into only the brand that I've worked out for the past 3 years, and then I leave the brand and I have nothing to show for it, like it's hard to then go say like, well, look at all this stuff I can do when I'm not allowed to put that all publicly. If the brand has been putting me publicly and I can still point back to these things I've been doing and like people have been seeing it the whole time, it still retains like a sense of your accomplishment on the internet. And so it's like, when a brand chooses not to stifle you, it also lets you feel comfortable to say like, all right, well, if this doesn't work out, if they do lay me off, like at least it will be, you know, I don't want to say for nothing, because like hopefully you got a paycheck for it, but like, it doesn't feel like a step backwards in the personal branding.
No, I think that's so true. Yeah, I think that's it. Just I love seeing that. I want to talk about your content, like your what you won the award for. So will you walk us
Okay.
through how you heard about the award, or kind of like what not how you heard about it. You probably heard about
Yeah.
it like on Slack. But what the positioning is, what parts of your day to day you share. I know I've seen you
Yeah.
like on the LIRR. I've seen you in server rooms and things like
Yep.
that. But yeah, I would love kind of your walk us through it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was already like kind of like doing that stuff and like making like little videos, and like I every time I did a little bit more, I'd be like, I want to make a video. Like I don't usually do video content. Maybe I'll try dabbling in that. And then like the I had known that like there was going to be an internal push to do more, LinkedIn content. But the fact that I happened to say to myself, I'm going to do a day in the life video today, happened to also be the day that they like announced it on the all hands. And like when I got that like in my day, like I was like, oh, this is just so perfect that it's going to work out. But it was like essentially it was, they did it great. Shout out to Alexander Bass, Morning Brew Inc. For manages our internal comms who put this together. But it is like, there are multiple categories, and so like if are you creating new content like articles and videos and whatever, and creating it and showing off? Are you supporting others, retweeting and commenting on their posts and amplifying their voices? Are you, there's like a couple of categories that like were out there, and then however it worked out where they added points for them and whatever activity, but they just monitored it. And it was also great because, every all hands, there would be like a check-in and be like, look what people are posting now, and it kind of encouraged other people to post. I definitely noticed that after that in this quarter versus the previous quarter, like the one that I won the award in, like now this quarter, like a bunch of people are posting, like tons of people are posting more. And I think it was like, I think the exercise of seeing that first quarter through to completion where there's like, oh, there's recognition for the thing and here's an award, it was whatever, is like, maybe I can win that next time. And like, I think it worked out. So shout out Alexander for doing that. But yeah, the essentially like I didn't have to do anything different to like go chase the award, because I was luckily like, I'm already retweeting. I keep saying retweeting. I'm already reposting. I'm already liking other people's stuff. Like I'm already posting a lot of random stuff. This works out for me. But it was just like, I think, the goal is show off what's going on and show off Morning Brew, show off like some stuff, just like be a human on the internet, like help promote the fact that we do stuff. And yeah, like I've definitely shot millions of videos and then been like, I'm not going to post this, or I'm like, whatever. And like, I go through it and it's just like, is anyone really going to care about like how the thermostats work here? It's just because I did that today. Like, is that a good worthy posting of a video? Probably not. But like, it's good to
Someone
like,
does.
someone
Like
does.
facilities manager is going to be like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Someone's got a better video on it though. Like
Yeah,
why
fair.
watch mine? And so I think it's like one of those things where I keep it open to just be like, what am I doing? Is there a possibility I can turn something I'm doing today into something that's going to help someone else? And like that is like the general rule that I go by when I'm trying to translate work content into like whatever content. Like if I'm doing something like I think our AI rollout here went really well. I think our AI rollout, especially at a place that makes content and is full of writers, rolling out AI to a group of people like that, it has its own significant challenges. But like, again, with where I'm like the side of where I'm at on it, like I support all of those challenges. Like I love that all of those people have those challenges, because that's what I hate about AI too.
Yeah.
When I'm solving these problems in these ways that are unique for how do you solve them for writers, I think those are the types of challenges that people don't are running up against, often, because they don't have as many writers. Maybe they have like mostly finance people or mostly whatever, and then like the three people in their content team are like, I don't want to do this. And like, how do you convince those three? Us, it's like, it's most of our team. How did we convince everybody to do it? And so I think, those things I know can help people. And so I think to post them. And sometimes they, like you said, they work. Sometimes they don't. If they have some sort of funny, entertaining element, usually they pop more, right? But like not everything can be entertaining sometimes. And so I balance that by just like, I'll sometimes post nothing to do with work. Like I just had like, I don't even know, Claude just gave me some dumb answer, said something wrong and hallucinated something about like a Bitcoin shampoo. And then I was just like, thought to myself, like, what would a Bitcoin
What?
shampoo be? And then I was just like, I just like typed like a Bitcoin shampoo for VCs, and like that was it. And it flopped, obviously, but it's just like sometimes a random thought will catch the right people, and
Yeah.
they're like, I'm on the same page with you. I don't know why, but that's weird. And so yeah, like I think it's definitely truly balanced, and like none of it is good, none of it's bad. Consistency is always good, right? Like, and I think with any art form, that's always been the case. Like great songwriters don't like write 12 songs and then like, you know, make 12 hits. They write like 10,000 songs and then like curate an album from the massive swaths of things they've written, because like once you have so much, you can pick out the good stuff. And if you just like, here's just the 12 things I did here, you know, that's just mediocre at best. So it's kind of very similar. Like the more you can post consistently, like one of the posts will take off, and the posts that don't, no one's going to see them anyway because they didn't take off. And so it's like if people see you, they're only going to see the stuff that took off anyway. So who cares? Post the dumb stuff. Like the worst that can happen is no one's going to see it, and then like okay, then no one saw it. So who cares?
Or
And you
like
know
the
what you should.
people that are already there are going to see it. Like every time I post a dumb thing, it's like one like, and it's my husband. I'm like, well, he
Right.
follows me. He sees it,
Right.
right? So it's,
And like, and then someone liked it. Like, whatever. It
yeah.
was three people who liked it. Those three
Yeah.
people liked it.
They're
Like,
there. They're
okay,
with
I
us.
made
Yeah.
a small happy moment for three people. That's like, they
Yes.
definitely didn't think of it more than 2 seconds. But like, whatever. It's less than like people. No one saw it and was just like, ugh. Now I'm just my day is ruined. You know, like if I can do that,
Yeah.
like that's fine. Thank God for
Yeah.
that.
I do think, right, you take this really nuanced approach. You're probably the perfect person to roll out AI at a company like Morning Brew, to your point, where, you know, it's like not hardcore adoption, not hardcore dismissal, not like using AI to write everything, but, you know, how do we adopt it in a way that still supports people in their craft? And I think you are probably the perfect person for that because of the nuance you bring. One thing I want to go back to is you were talking about, you know, kind of deciding what to post and what to not. And one of the things that you said as a decider is someone's got something better. Someone can talk about it in a better way, or somebody's got a video that's going to be better than mine. How do you define better? And how
Yeah,
do you know that's true?
that's a good question, because like better is obviously subjective, and I
Of
think
course.
like, you know, it's always better for what, right? Like I think you could go on YouTube and find thousands to millions of videos on like how to do home construction, like how to fix a thing in your house, how to fix a drain pipe. So why is it that this one guy named Shannon from Home Improvements is the channel I always watch? Like what does he have that
Mm.
every other channel doesn't? And you know, like I it's not that his channel is better than another one. It's just my learning style adapts to how he's presenting it, right? Like he's talking about it in this way, he's showing these certain visuals, and I'm like, oh, the way he speaks about it works for me. Someone else might be like, I can't even watch a video. I've got to look at schematics and drawings and like know how to put it together like that. And like, you know, we all have our learning styles, but I think that everything is finding a problem and finding a solution fit to that problem. If you have a good video series that speaks to 90% of the population, that's amazing for you. And that is successful. If you base success on how much of the population you're reaching, then yes, that is better than the person who's only got 10%. But let's say you were speaking to two different types of people and you got a 90% group and a 10% group, and one person who's got 89% of the 90% versus 100% of the 10% group, because of their niche, they're probably doing that thing better for that niche, right? Because like, however, it might not be that better is measured in viewers, but like if they set out to make something specific for that niche and then get more total ratio of viewership, then that defines better to me, right? And so like what I think is like, if would I do something that someone else did, only if I'm going to do it in a way that is going to present it differently, speak to a different audience. Like, is there something wrong with the way everybody's doing it now where I need to present it differently, right? Like, and I think that would be still at like the crux of the whole LinkedIn Guru thing. Like, if you're presenting AI agents as a cure-all to everything, and that's the way you're, you know, presenting it, like, I would rather present it this other way, and that's, you know, true.
Yeah. I like that the acknowledgement of those gurus almost becomes like your filter. It's almost
Yeah.
like, are you teetering into that territory or not? And it feels like you have a good discernment for when you are and when you're not.
Yeah. Am I taking advantage of anybody? Like, I
Yeah.
think that's it. Like, I don't feel like I can take advantage of anybody, which, probably is going to hurt me in business one day. But like, also, it just feels like something like it's why I can't do sales also, because I just feel be like, oh, let me give this to you. I'll just give it to you. It's here. You know what? You deserve it. So I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want, and it's like, that's why I was good at designing customer service design for
Yeah.
Peloton. And why this was like, it was because of the focus on the user experience that's always been there. Like, how is the person who's getting help at member support with their bike going to feel after they're finished getting help? My manager at Peloton, shout out Jason Katz, who he just had me 2 days ago on a LinkedIn post from some random person who was like, I've worked in customer support for many years, and the best place that I've ever seen customer support is Peloton, and here's why. And it's like all the chatbot, and he tagged me being like, all of the things they mentioned are the things that you put in.
I
So
love that.
I was like, cool, like that's
Legacy.
amazing. Yeah, but it's good like that legacy still like because if you focus on it the right place, like what does the human need, and how does this human who's in this scenario get their problem solved? Not weigh that against like how does everybody else do it, but like how does this one thing get solved? Now you're focusing on the niche of like like not member support, but customer support for this bike that does this thing for this group of people who have this quality about them, and then you change the way you do things a little bit, because it's a little more, it is like Peloton's a little more white glove than other services. And so like you expect that coming in and you design for it. Yes, it's going to cost you a little more, but it's like part of the whole process. And like the fact that people still say, the content of Peloton itself and the customer support were always the two strongest suits, I think. And like
Yeah.
everybody else, y'all did great, honestly. But like, I think that like those were the two things that like have kept people forever, and like why the Peloton user base is still so strong, even where the stock price is not, because it's like people still want to be with those people every day and still want the help and the feeling like they belong to that community. And like that has never gone away. And like that has been obviously the most important lesson to take, is like a company can like, sorry, Peloton, fail that miserably over the course of like 1 year, but still have such a dedicated fan following still.
Yeah.
And I think that says so much to it.
I would agree with you. I think that, and it's the thing that probably kept me in CX and like for so long. And then I was like, oh, I can help more people if I get into the systems and the operations of it. And then when I was on, the enterprise IT member support team, like I was like, oh, and now I can really like, I can help the people helping the people. And then it's what attracted me so much to pivoting into product. It was like, well, if I can get on the front lines and impact the experience up front, right, then everybody's happy. And I personally think that's part of my own like disillusionment with product management is I've come to realize, or my experiences have shown, and things I've read and seen, it is a lot about, making great, wonderful, beautiful software experiences, but it's also about like pushing numbers and conversion. And will this, putting this icon on this page instead of this one and turning it blue, will we see a 0.4% lift? And that stuff is really hard for me to care about. And I think that just resonated with me a lot in my experience.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that with still another great Peloton bit. But like when I started there, again, shout out to Jason Katz, but my manager there, he on my onboarding gave me 3 books to read, and one of them was called The Goal, and of course I forget the author now, but it's regarding the theory of constraints is the main topic, and it has to do, it's an analogy written like a fiction book, and it's about like a guy in a factory, and it's old. And if you've ever read like the Phoenix Project or the whatever it's called, or the Unicorn Project, it's a modern equivalent of that book written from an IT perspective, but they do it the same way of like writing it as a fiction story and still talking about there. They even bring up theory of constraints, but it's like a more modern version of it. Anyway, point being is like they really talk about how everything needs to be tied back to what is making money for the company, right? Like if this person can do this, makes money. And like it's easy when it's like, are we spending money on materials? Are we paying people? Are we getting money in sales to calculate that? Where it starts to become difficult is things like brand reputation, security risk, all of those things. Customer reputation is like, how do you quantify that into a dollar amount? How do I say, if I give better white glove service, if I increase our CSAT, for example, it's a score, but like, how do I say that doing that is worth money? Is that retaining customers? Like, there's so much that you have to do extra to then like push that back to money that is so hard to do that if you don't do it, no executive is going to care about. And so, like, as someone who's worked in IT, customer support is just another cost center. And so, like, as someone who's worked in cost centers like my whole life, it's like it's hard. You can never prove that you're making money. You just have to like make less or like spend less, spend less, spend less. And it's hard to be like, well, I'm spending less, but it's now at the result of this brand reputation that you won't listen to. I can't quantify it for you, so you won't hear it. And having leadership that understands the value of that customer service, like, and that it can't be directly compared, that's the only thing that's going to like work there. Otherwise, you just keep getting nickel and dimed and financially ruined until your customer support sucks and your product sucks, and then no one wants to buy you anymore, and everyone's like, what happened to my company? But you need to make people happy.
Yeah. One of the D2C brands I worked at, like, very much owned, like, CX is not a cost center for us. Like, it is a brand. It is a way that people will talk about the brand, and those experiences will make or break the way people talk about the brand. And I think that, yeah, when you're able to see it that way, obviously, you know, the accounting has to also maybe work out in other ways, or other places have to make up for it or whatnot. But like at one of the companies I worked, like, CX sat under brand, which I'd never seen before. And because it's like truly like an extension of, the shipment is delayed, just send them something new. Like, just
Right.
do it, right? Just
Yeah,
do it.
at Peloton, the customer support was under the membership team. Like, the same team who dealt with retention itself also had member support under it. And I was like, that's makes the most sense. This is a like person that like you're trying to keep the subscription for Peloton people. The bike is one thing. The subscription is like the thing that keeps you forever. You want to keep that. The retention is tied to if you're having a bike issue and can't ride your bike, you're not going to keep paying for your subscription. So you need it to get fixed fast. So like all of that made so much sense to me. And then like when it was like it got moved to operations, and that's when it becomes like, oh, now you're a cost center because like you're no longer part of that strategy of retention.
That also happened. It was Away. I don't know why I'm being so coy about it. It was so long ago, but Away also moved CX under operations, and there was like this very distinct shift of of just like the way that stuff was prioritized. It's so interesting. So all these experiences in wanting to make delightful experiences for customers, wanting to make delightful experiences for LinkedIn users. It's all full circle.
It's wanting a delightful experience in life, and that comes from being who you are and wanting the things that you want and just being okay with asking for them and getting them. And like, I think that when you are putting your customers into a box and saying this is who they are and then not responding to them, you're doing the same thing as like asking Christopher to come to work. And if you are just like looking at your people, your employees as who they are, if you're looking at your customers as who they are, and you're really adapting to the problems that you have and to the situations that you have, and not just putting a blanket like this is what the LinkedIn gurus say on top of it, you are gonna have success. But you just need to do that work.
Yeah. If that wasn't such a nice microphone, I would tell you to drop it, because that was the perfect mic drop.
Even if I did,
moment.
it stuck to a
I know.
it stuck to a thing. It's
it can unscrews.
Yeah, it's like, could
A
you imagine?
metaphorical
Like, hold on, I gotta
drop.
unscrew it before I drop it.
I need to do my mic drop. I don't know.
I'd have to pay for it too. That'd be bad. But
Yeah, exactly. That I could not think of a more perfect moment for us to end on, Chris. This was such a pleasure. I loved chatting with you. I think you have such a great perspective. Love seeing you out there in the world. Really grateful you came on and that we connected. Can you tell us where we can find you?
Morning Brew Inc., where I work. That's all where I'm at, where I'm taking care of my kids. Like, I'm not really doing a lot. I'm not selling anybody anything. Follow me on LinkedIn if you want to hear the dumb stuff that I say, and if you want to learn a little bit more about how I feel about capitalism and AI.
Ugh, perfect. And really appreciate you coming on today. I also want to shout out the Morning Brew Inc. team for being in the control room with us. This is really up-leveling my my podcast production. So appreciate you all being here. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you on the next one.